Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an absolutely fantastic day. Don't forget to follow me on my other channel called Money Rules. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. So in slightly optimistic news, I'm pretty sure you are all aware of the current happenings within the financial world and the rumblings or the idea of a recession. Not quite at a depression yet, but the idea is that if things continue to move in this direction, we might actually slip into like ultra recession territory. We had discussions quite recently about the movements of all the markets and what's been happening. The idea with interest rates, the idea with inflation, the idea with job numbers, and a multitude of other events also happening currently around the world. We're getting a lot of job data news, and I personally feel like that's a bit of a hyper deflection from what's actually going on, because people are losing their jobs because these companies are trying to figure out ways to continue making money and or show shareholders that they are cutting costs. The issue is that the more people who don't have jobs, the less people who have money. The less people who have money, these people are not putting any money into the economy and or are saving, which we're also seeing as well. More people are choosing to save because of the constant uncertainty that we've been having over the course of the last couple of years. The expectation is and was at the beginning of this year that the Fed was going to lower interest rates several times throughout the course of 2024. That has yet to transpire, as we are currently seeing. I believe the European Central Bank announced that they are going to cut rates twice. We had news, I think, from the Bank of England. I think they're going to do the same. China's doing the same. And I believe Japan has also changed their interest rates as well recently in the news. That's why I said light silver lining. Because we've gotten to the point where if the Fed doesn't do something, it'll be a literal calamity. However, people are now announcing that they think that the Fed is going to announce that they are going to have rate cuts. And if they do so, the stock market will go back up. The crypto market will go back up. People will be able to make money at least for an extended period of time. At least this is the hope. So where we are right now, the previous expectations were for a rate cut of 0.25%, so a quarter of a point. People are now expecting that they're going to do 0.5% of a rate cut, which would actually really push and accelerate the markets basically back to where they were before and or a little bit higher. This was also a portion of the cryptocurrency news that we had earlier. I want to say like beginning of summer, maybe the end of spring, as the cryptocurrency market was sliding down. This was also because the wider view of the stock market was basically that stocks also weren't doing well. What people kept on paying attention to were tech stocks. And any kind of online buying kind of thing like Amazon, yada, yada, yada. And then when reality hit everyone, that Nvidia was not going to be this $70 trillion company anytime soon, and the actual limitations of AI, which we've also gone over before, that is what like spooked people. Like Nvidia needed to drop for everyone to finally become concerned. Expectations for a rate cut of 50 basis points at the Fed's September meeting have jumped to almost 70% from 22% in the prior session. People were wagering as to if the Fed was going to cut interest rates. The idea was 22% of people said, yeah, maybe. And the other were kind of completely skeptical, thinking that we had a little bit longer to go before they'd announced any cuts to the market. But they need to do it now. Like, they actually need to do it now, and they probably should, as mentioned before, have around 2 rate cuts. The expectation was, as I previously stated, was 0.25%. If we get a 50 basis point cut in September and then we get another one in November or December, realistically, the markets should do a lot better. It says, obviously, the job numbers are the big headline, but we seem to have officially entered at least a rational world where bad economic news is read as bad, rather than bad economic news is read as good. For those of you who don't understand that, you might remember over the course of the last 2 years, we would get terribly weird, obscene economic news about either happenings in the world or things happening with the job market or things happening with the economy, and stocks would pump constantly. And it was always like, even with like earnings reports, companies would say like, yeah, we missed it by 5%, and their stock would still go up by 12%. It was incredibly odd. Everyone kept on focusing on everything that had to do with tech, as if it was going to drag the entire economy from its slump. Where we currently are, people are realizing that something is a little bit off. The weirdest part is that even if the Fed cuts interest rates, we have to hope that things actually rebound. And then the other issue is, well, inflation's going to start rising again. So then the Fed is going to have to try and find another way. But the only way that they've been, like, think about it. The only thing that these people have come up with in their minds is to either print money to keep the markets afloat, and or stop raising interest rates, or to raise interest rates to try and keep the economy in check. The problem is it's no longer in check. It's completely crumbling apart because people are losing their jobs. They're losing their money. Inflation continues to rise rapidly, more than they're actually saying. So the other solution is to lower interest rates, to raise inflation a little bit more, to keep the economy afloat for as long as they can. So, yeah, light silver lining as the markets continue to sway to and fro. Hopefully, this is maybe just an August thing, as many people are now saying. Maybe this is kind of the hiccup before we actually get on the right foot once again. But we need to hear from the Fed that they are going to actually be lowering interest rates. And also 0.5%, I think, would definitely do the markets pretty good. That's the world economy is falling, crumbling, not looking too hot. Other countries are now looking to the U.S. There are many different leaders of the Fed around the U.S. and also in other places around the world who run their central banks, who are now openly saying like the Fed like has to cut rates now. Like it's no longer like maybe we can hold this off until January, which would actually be disastrous. Can you imagine if we had moving down in markets until January? No way. Yeah, that's the macro current news. And yeah, let's move on. In surprising news, I don't know how to really... We're getting a lot of like tremendously good news, but no one is I mean, to be fair, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on, but no one's reporting on this. Stephen Fulop, the mayor of Jersey City, New Jersey, has announced that the city's pension funds will be allocating a portion of their investments into Bitcoin ETFs. Fulop also expressed his long-standing belief in cryptocurrency, although he had not publicly mentioned Bitcoin or other assets before the 25th of July. You know that people who are into Bitcoin don't always have to start a sentence like with Bitcoin. That seems to be a really weird misconception, that if someone hasn't said Bitcoin and crypto are amazing over the course of the last 12 years, people are like, why are you mentioning it now? And it's like, Would you rather this person never mention it? Or would you rather them come out in support of it right now? Anywho, Fulop announced that they are updating paperwork with the US SEC to allow Bitcoin ETF investments. This is one of those things where we get like really significant, like crazy news, and people just kind of look over it. And I mean, even, I get it, the economy is more important and all this other stuff. But when you talk about actual Bitcoin adoption and Bitcoin, like, going to the masses and people investing in Bitcoin, this is incredibly significant. We had news years ago that there were other countries and other places around the world who were looking to, this is before ETFs, they were looking to invest in Bitcoin as not only a hedge, but into their actual pension funds. And I remember remarking, I was like, this is incredible. Why? Because pension funds are meant to be like a long-standing, stable investment for people who are investing in them. So if your city or state or country has a pension fund and they're allocating even $1, I'm sure it's more than $1, into actual Bitcoin or Bitcoin ETFs, it means that they, according to their charts, have come to the conclusion that Bitcoin is going to be around for the next 30, 40, 50 plus years. You don't invest as a pension fund in something that is going to disappear in a year or two. So yeah, this news is incredibly significant. It did not and probably will never make popular news. But I mean, it also was not popular news when we heard from the two cities in Brazil who are already buying up Bitcoin for their city's fund. There was another place in the States 2 years ago who announced that they were doing this. And then we also had the thing from Florida, which I think was popular for like 3 days. And then we also had the mayor of New York also say that he was also into Bitcoin, and people cared for about a good 16 and a half hours. So people keep, and this is an opinion, people keep looking to the prices for like adoption or like something, as opposed to being like, oh wait, Bitcoin's literally being integrated into everything around us and is probably going to be here at least until the year 2140. But I guess, logic is not logical. That's the Jersey City is working with the SEC to update paperwork so that they can allocate money into their pension fund. Yeah. Let's move on. Also in the news, and I was shocked. This was not popular news at all. I think people are not connecting the dots anymore. So years ago, any kind of weird XRP news would, skyrocket to the forefront of anything popular. And I mean, even, and here we go. I mean, even as far as like, there's a bear sitting on a chair and there's words above him and 589, anything nonsensical, set people off, and people were like, yeah, this is going to happen. But recently we've been getting a lot of like actual concrete, real Ripple and XRP news. We had a news story that they were working with, I think, 3 other countries recently. Didn't make popular news. We had other news that the lawsuit might be ending. That also was like popular, but also then not popular after that. We had news that they were currently working, I think, with 80 different countries and different banks around the world for whatever they said that they were doing. Also didn't make popular news. We had recent news that they've begun to put treasury bills on top of the XRP blockchain. And this is probably because, for those of you who missed that video, Tether, the people who make Tether, invest quite heavily in US treasury bills. Do you know why they do this? It's because it's probably one of the very few ways that they're actually able to have this coin succeed. In order to mimic the US dollar, you have to back it by things that also uphold the US dollar. So news that Ripple was doing the exact same thing also didn't make popular news. So I assume, once again, a lot of people just want bears sitting down and high numbers and all these other illogical things, as opposed to realizing that this coin is actually surviving and thriving. Ripple has expanded their alliance with the National Federation of Associations of Central Bank Servers. To promote XRP ledger use in Brazil, which we were just talking about. Ripple disclosed details of this latest collaboration via its official website on Monday. The report noted that the synergy with Finsasback, seeks to promote the development of efficient financial solutions that most satisfactorily leverage networks like the XRP ledger technology. Notably, Finsasback leads Next, the most prominent accelerator program in Brazil's financial landscape. Next furnishes what? Who wrote this article? This is weird and so wordly. Next furnishes emerging fintech with robust growth potential, with resources, mentorship, and investment opportunities. Yeah. So Ripple continues their expansion with central banks and associations around the world. And I think it's another one of those situations, well, the price isn't going up, so the masses aren't going to pay attention. But forgive my French here. This is why the masses are usually like broke and don't have a lot of money. That's not meant to be mean. We've gone over that before. I've had this channel for a long time, and I've noticed that every time that something significant happens, especially in crypto or the financial world, 95% of people don't pay attention until the prices have gone up or things are too high or out of their reach. And that's when they jump back into it. But at that point, you're at the back of the train. Like you've missed the entire thing. So yeah, congrats to Ripple for continuously expanding. As I've mentioned before that other people have a problem with, there is no other company in the cryptocurrency space that's doing as much as Ripple. Ethereum has a lot of partnerships and is the most used blockchain. But there's no other company, there's no other thing, no other coin who has as many partnerships with central bank as Ripple and XRP do. So I still expect them to do incredibly well in the future. Yeah, that's the not popular at all Ripple news. And yeah, let's move on. Also not popular news. Michigan, has purchased $6 million in Bitcoin. Yet another regional government has disclosed an allocation to the newly launched Bitcoin ETFs, forging another step in Bitcoin's growing adoption among not only institutions but also governments. In a Form 13F filed on Friday, the state of Michigan's retirement system revealed that they had $6.6 million allocated to Bitcoin ETFs as of the 30th of June. According to the filing, the pension fund made its first Bitcoin investment through ARK21 shares, the fourth largest U.S. Bitcoin ETF behind BlackRock, Grayscale, and Fidelity. Yeah, I don't know. You probably can't understand what it's like to continuously be in this space and have this kind of news popping up nearly daily. We don't get a lot of, often, maybe every month, once a month, as far as like a pension or something system getting into the cryptocurrency space and or into Bitcoin. But to see irrespective of what the markets are currently doing now, it's a bit of a downer to constantly have this really good news and to see that people just aren't paying attention. I mentioned that before. I notice all the time that the moment that any markets drop in price, my view count also drops in number as well, which is personally, it should also signal to people that the asset that they were interested in before is now undervalued comparative to especially all the news that we've been getting. It just reminds me of simpler times in 2017 where the market actually reacted properly to things. But for some reason, I mean, it's also the stock market. Markets just don't react to any kind of logic anymore. Like absolute, like, I mean explicitly across the board. If we had heard, and I mean any time before 2020, any time, 2017, 18, 19, that one state, any state, it could have been anyone, had purchased $6 million worth of Bitcoin, once again for another like retirement system pension fund, the market would have reacted and this news would have spread like wildfire and people would have been like, look, this is another step. This is another domino that's fallen. Like we're moving further and further into the future. Look how many $6 million worth of Bitcoin is a huge allocation. And no one seems to care. And I know that there's maybe a couple of you out there who care or you understand, but you know what I mean. Like the masses just aren't paying attention. And sometimes I also wonder and I question, like, what exactly would be the tipping point? So let's say we just had news about Michigan and also one city in New Jersey. What if there were like 35 states in the US? Would that then prompt people to be like, oh, wait, Bitcoin's definitely here to stay? Does it have to be like 7 states? Does it have to be 14 countries? What's the point where you will finally understand what's happening? For those of you who missed the news, this is a couple videos ago. I have no idea how many videos. That whales are controlling and holding 90% of all the Bitcoin. And then people sit there and then they wonder, how do these people have all the Bitcoin? And it's like, well, they've been accumulating nonstop over the course of, this news came out recently. And the issue is that they've had this Bitcoin since the 30th of June. So it's, okay, you understand what I'm saying. So, right. That's another state has bought Bitcoin. I wonder when people will get it. And I mean, some of you, and also like when the masses will like really go, oh, okay, now is the time for me to get into the space, because like the market's not really waiting for anyone. Like the accumulation levels aren't waiting for you and your friends to try and find a good time to enter the market. So yeah, okay, that's the Michigan news. Moving along. Also in popular news, ETFs are like slowly making their way back into the space. For those of you not looking at the screen, it says Ethereum ETFs could reach $10 billion in assets under management in their first year. This was said by Sygnum Bank. The long and short of it basically is Ethereum is doing extremely well, regardless of, once again, there's a lot of interest for the ETFs, regardless of what is going on. However, it does not take, I think it's only a couple million. I think if I remember the number correctly, I think it's $130 or $140 million. I think that's the number to buy up the entire yearly supply of Ether that gets created. We went over that when we had that Ethereum video where people were talking about that Ethereum was inflating out of control. And I showed you the charts in the video, and like the inflation rate was not even 1/10 of 1%. So it doesn't take a lot of money to actually absorb the yearly, not monthly, the yearly supply of newly created Ether. The expectations are that the Ethereum ETFs are going to do extremely well. And it's kind of one of those things where, how do I say this as quick as possible? If Ethereum does well, the altcoins also do extremely well as well. If we end up seeing $10 billion worth of inflows into the Ethereum ETFs, this is what leads us to a $12, $13, $14, $15,000 Ether per coin, because also we had in the news, because Ethereum doesn't have the same market cap as Bitcoin, every $1 that goes into Ethereum counts as $3 comparative to Bitcoin. So it's a lot easier for Ethereum's price to pump in that respect. Spot Ether exchange traded funds could amass as much as $10 billion in assets under management within their first year of trading. The optimism is still there for this year, for the crypto market, for the Fed to lower the interest rates, but also where prices are going to go over the course of the next couple of months. Someone named Caitlin Tischhauser, head of investment research at Sygnum Bank and a former executive at Goldman Sachs, told Cointelegraph in an interview about her projections for the ETFs. She predicted that Bitcoin ETF inflows would be in the $30 to $50 billion range within the first 12 months, and that Ethereum products would also follow as well. She said Ethereum's lesser name recognition is likely to mean slower adoption, before adding, with Ethereum's market cap a third of Bitcoin's, we expect the relative inflows to be 15 to 35% versus Bitcoin, with a resulting forecast of $5 to $10 billion in the first year. This would propel the entire market upward. Even a lot of times now there's a lot of really good Ethereum ETF news. It is constantly overshadowed by any type of outflow news. And I don't know why people put the news this way. For instance, let's say over the course of a day, there was $80 million worth of inflows for Ethereum ETFs. But then as the day was ending, there were $14 million worth of inflows. So the inflows were still 80 million and the outflows were just 14 million. But the news ends up being Ethereum had another bad day with $14 million worth of outflows. That's the way that a lot of people keep framing and phrasing the news for Ethereum ETFs. I can only assume that it has to be Bitcoin maximalists. There are a lot of people who are still very upset that Ethereum has ETFs. I don't understand the idea of being a baby and like crying over something that you have absolutely no control over. But that's just what a lot of people are doing. So if by the end of the year, I mean, time is rapidly moving forward. I remember April, and here we are nearly mid-August at this point. Yeah, the expectations are quite high for this market and where things are going to go. I'm still relatively hyper optimistic. I have no bearish in me. It's just more of I think we're in like this really weird crossroads where our market should be, personal belief should be a lot higher than it currently is right now. But as I always say, we are tethered. We are closely linked to the world macro markets. So we are at their behest, because wherever they go, we also end up going as well. But yeah, the predictions and stuff like that, I have not seen in the last couple days any like bearish predictions for the cryptocurrency market. People think once again that this might just be some kind of a hiccup. We'll see what ends up happening. Yeah, I think that is going to do it for this video. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all finding time to do something for yourself, to make yourself smile, something that makes you happy. Just because there's a lot of stuff happening at the exact same time, and no one really knows where anything is going to go, but we can, I guess, keep our fingers crossed, as it were. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.